We would be honored if you would join us.
What's up, Dolphin fans? Welcome to another episode of the DolphinsReport.com podcast. My name is Aaron Katzker, joined as always by Mike Hernandez and Steve Wotocek. We are all writers for the DolphinsReport.com, brought to you as always by Scout Media.
You may dispense with the pleasantries, Commander.
It's another Victory Monday, guys.
Amen.
Woo! And what a weekend of football. I mean, huge spreads across the board, giant upsets. The Giants playing basically without a receiving core, go into Denver and absolutely have their way with the Broncos. And your Miami Dolphins, one of the worst teams in football,
offensively,
go into Atlanta, the defending NFC champs.
Atlanta Falcons.
and do what I say they would.
The NFC champs coming off of a loss, coming off of a bye week, got that extra week to prepare for that really unpredictable Miami Dolphins offense.
That is correct, Commander.
That explosive Miami Dolphins offense.
Most impressive.
Get up 17-0, and your Miami Dolphins come roaring back and pick up a victory. It is a Victory Monday, and we are walking on sunshine. How are you guys feeling on this glorious Monday early evening?
I'm feeling outrageously surprised and just, I don't know, thrilled and just borderline shocked by this team. I mean,
only borderline shocked?
Borderline shocked because, you know me, I do not believe in Jay Cutler, and it's just, they scored 2 touchdowns in this game. They doubled their average touchdown per game. Like,
I repeat, you're only borderline shocked?
Yeah, borderline shocked. I mean, down 17-0, you know, but I'm borderline shocked mainly because the defense plays so well for the Dolphins, and they're just that good to keep the score low from the other team, that they could keep the offense theoretically in the game. But yeah, man, for the way the Dolphins offense came alive, like a real statement I should use in the second half of this game, or should I just say came out of the coffin? Just like some undead offense.
You're a couple weeks early on your Halloween reference there, but we are going to get into this Dolphins.
Still October.
We're gonna break down the ins and outs of exactly what happened, what went right and what went wrong, and how the Dolphins magically ended up pulling out a victory once again out of the clutches of defeat. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about what else happened around the NFL. We mentioned we had the big upset in Denver. But also the big storyline this week, a very controversial call coming in the Patriots-Jets game, a call that some are calling the worst call in NFL history.
This will be a day long remembered.
Which seems like a bit of hyperbole, but you know that's bound to happen whenever you've got a game with a team from New York, and whenever you've got a Patriots game, you always tend to get at least a little bit of hyperbole. But if you didn't see the play that we're talking about, it comes in the fourth quarter of the Patriots game. The score at the time, 24-14 Patriots. Jets driving, and Josh McCown hits Austin Seferian-Jenkins, the tight end, completes a pass, and as Austin Seferian-Jenkins is coming towards the goal line and towards out of bounds, he lunges towards the pylon, and being harassed by 2 Patriots defensive backs, the ball comes loose. But as he's going down, Seferian-Jenkins seems to recover the ball. It never hits the ground. It's either loose in the air or in his possession the entire time. But he comes down out of bounds, technically, and technically out of bounds in the end zone. The play is ruled a touchdown on the field. But upon further review, it is determined that since the ball came loose and was not recovered in bounds and went through the end zone, by rule, that is a touchback and a change of possession. And so the Patriots get the ball back in a complete change of events that has the entire country in an uproar, because anytime something goes the Patriots' way, there is an uproar.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Steve, what were your thoughts on that play and the weekend in general?
The weekend in general was just insane. I mean, the Chiefs lost, get the first loss. So 72 Dolphins, go ahead, pop that champagne. You're still the only
5-6 weeks this year.
Very, very quickly, again, the Giants going into Denver and just like say having their way with them is nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw that. I don't care who you are. Vegas didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming.
Orleans Darkwa.
The Darkwa.
And then, like you say, with the whole Jets and Patriots, I'm sorry. I'm one of the very few. That's the correct call. The correct call was made. That's one of the reasons why we have instant replay. Now, is the correct call always the right call? Should this rule be re-looked at? Yes. Any other place on the field, he fumbles that ball like he does right there, and he goes out of bounds, it is still the Jets' ball. But in the NFL and in football in general, when you fumble the ball and it goes out through the end zone, it's the other team's ball. It's a touchback. Now, you can see when he loses possession, like you say, the ball never touches ground, but he clearly loses possession of the ball. When he retakes it in and hits the ground, the ball again shakes in his stomach. Now, the definition of a catch is you have to control the ball all the way through the ground. You ask Dallas Cowboys fans, Des Bryant, go back to the Lions with Calvin Johnson. I mean, these are big-time plays that cost teams victories, and yet again, we're not going to say if they score this touchdown, do they come back to make the win? You can't say that. It's the Patriots. You know what they can do. They proved it over through the last 12 years. Doesn't matter the odds, they're going to come away with a victory most likely. But was this the correct call made? I believe it was. Is it a questionable call? Yes. Should this rule be re-looked at? Yes. But he never fully got possession of the ball when he brought it out of bounds.
Yeah, it's a silly rule, and it's been a silly rule for a while now, but it doesn't always come to fruition where you have such a controversial play involving this rule. But when you really think about it, anywhere else on the field where there's a fumble, the ball goes out of bounds, the team, it doesn't get recovered. It goes out of bounds. The team that loses the fumble, they get it back right where the ball was knocked out. But somehow, when you're in the end zone, that turns into a touchback. Or if it goes into the end zone and out, it's a touchback. I think it's a silly rule. I think it's something that needs to get looked at, like you said. But like you said, by the letter of the law, by the way the rule is written, I have to say, and I hate this because I don't want to be defending the Patriots. Then on the other side, I don't want to be defending the Jets. So really, who cares? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But,
or you could defend the Jets and just have them tied up with the Patriots in the AFC standings.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor.
I don't want to defend the Jets.
Never in our lives,
really,
especially after a couple weeks ago.
I vomited in my mouth a little bit when you said that.
Don't make me destroy you.
But I think at the end of the day, the correct call was made, but this is a silly rule. It's a rule that has probably needed to be changed for a long time, but, the rule makers tend to be kind of reactionary. The rules are what they are until something comes up that really draws attention to it and makes people say, wait a minute, why is that the rule? And now that we've got that and we're like, okay, why is that the rule? It really doesn't make sense. So I fully expect that this to be a rule change next year when the competition committee gets together and does their thing in the off season.
I think the refs followed this, the ruling of, the writing of the rule, the legislation of the rule, whatever you want to call it, to a T. I think they got the call right, but at the same time, it's so, for me, watching it, it's so hard to rule because you can't exactly tell from all the camera angles where exactly what yard marker he did kind of lose possession on. And then you also rule it a touchdown, so that means there has to be overwhelming evidence to go back and review it or re-rule it according to overwhelming evidence. And I didn't think there was, in my opinion, I didn't think there was enough overwhelming evidence to turn over the call and rule it as a fumble out of the end zone.
See, that's where you and I have to defer on that. Because like I say, when I'm watching that play, he never gets full possession of the ball back. When he hits the ground outside of the end zone with the ball touching his body, you see the ball roll around. By definition, that's not possession. If you don't have complete control of that ball, if that ball isn't stuck to your arm like glue, they don't consider that possession.
But what if he juggled it, had it for a second, crossed the goal line, then twisted around and then lost it again?
Mike's right on this
where
point.
You break the hash.
After you break the hash, then you lose it, because then it would have been ruled a touchdown.
It's a touchdown. Like you see it all the time when guys, we're not talking about a catch. We're talking about possession.
He already had possession. He's running with it.
Yeah, once he's running with the ball, you see it all the time where a guy will dive towards the pylon, and he could be in the air. Once he crosses the goal line, once he crosses that invisible plane, it's a touchdown, and he could lose the ball even before he hits the ground.
Yes.
And it's still a touchdown because once it's a touchdown, it's a touchdown. The problem is that the ball gets knocked out, and he regains possession as he's the bigger problem is, from the way I see it and the way that I understand it, is that before he even regains possession, his hand hits out of bounds. Mm-hmm. And so he's out of bounds when he recovers this. But the ball is across the plane. So he's now recovered the ball out of bounds, but it's now technically gone through the end zone, which then technically it makes it the right call. But again, it's a silly rule.
I'm not a scientist.
But amazingly, for this most controversial call, which some have called the worst call that they've ever seen, which is just, prisoner of the moment. You're going to hear this.
This will be a day long remembered.
Yeah.
Probably next week. Or
I can't say it's the worst call I've ever seen.
And the week after, there will be another call where somebody, that's the worst call I've ever seen. Amazingly, we all agree that the right call was made. So perhaps it wasn't all that controversial, but I think we all agree it's a silly rule.
It's a hard thing for the refs to see because there's so many things happening on that play, and you have to analyze where so many different body parts are along with the ball on that play, and you're basing it off of camera angles that aren't necessarily in the right spot at times.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and I'm glad you finished with that, because it's not necessarily just the referees. They ruled it a touchdown, and either way it would have been a turnover, so it's going to get reviewed automatically. You have the cameras. That's why we do these things, to get the correct call made. In this instance, it was a correct call, one that, again, we all think is a silly, but also at the same time, we've seen countless plays where people fumble it out of the end zone. A offensive player thinks he's on a breakaway, and a defender comes up, punches it out, goes out. It adds that extra intrigue.
I always think of Leon Lett.
So if you change the rule because of this one play, what about all those other plays?
Well, what about all those times in the 60s where Dick Butkus is going around clotheslining people in the middle of the field?
That's a health issue, though.
What about illegal contact? What about...
Again, you're going to health issues. You're looking at things that are trying to take illegal contact.
Contact, pass interference.
You're not
calls,
a defensive receiver is basically illegal contact. Stuff like that.
I'm talking illegal contact, as in you can't touch a receiver after 5 yards down beyond.
Well,
the line of
that's
scrimmage.
to make more fans watch the game. Why
Well,
is
I'm
soccer
saying
not a
that's
big
a-
sport in the U.S.? Because it's 0-0 a lot of the time or 1-0. Americans don't have the attention span to sit there and watch that the entire time. They get bored. They don't want to see it. They want to see high scoring.
Well,
so in
doesn't
the
this
NFL,
make the game more high scoring because this is a rule that if it's changed would benefit the offense?
well, now here's the thing: if you change the rule, where are you going to change it to? If you fumble it out of the end zone, where do you get the ball back?
Where the ball gets knocked out, just like
So
it
you're
does
going to get it.
anywhere else
You're going to
on the
get the
field.
ball back at the half-yard line.
Yeah.
You're going to get it right there. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think when you
I mean-
fumble it into the opposing team's end zone, there should be a rule change where maybe you get the ball at the 10-yard line, inside their 10 or something.
I don't see any
Or on
reason
the-
why there would be any penalty for it.
Yeah, there shouldn't be.
You don't get penalized for if you're at the 30-yard line.
Yeah. You made it
and
all
you
the way
fumble-
there.
You fumble the ball at the 30, and it goes out of bounds at the 28. You get the ball back at the 30. If you fumble the ball at the 2, and it goes into the end zone, and it goes out of bounds, it doesn't get recovered by anybody,
Make it first and goal at the 10 or
you
something.
should get the ball back at the 2. I mean, if you want to say, okay, like let's meet somewhere in the middle and compromise, okay, fine. If you move it back to the 10 or it's a 5-yard penalty or something, I don't really see the need for there to be any penalty. It's inconsequential. The defense has done nothing more in that situation than they would do at the 30-yard line, the 40-yard line, where any other spot on the field where the defense doesn't get this humongous advantage for a fumble that they don't recover.
It all comes
you're-
down to collusion between Roger Goodell and the Patriots and Robert Kraft and Tom Brady.
Well, we're not even going to touch collusion with the news of Colin Kaepernick and his new lawsuit.
Oh my gosh, I'm fully against Colin Kaepernick, and I don't think. I wish I could say the things that I think about Colin Kaepernick on this show. But,
He's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Why don't you? I
Why-
mean, you cannot
I think-
say that you have all the... I said
Okay.
we're not going to touch on it, but apparently
Okay,
Mike
okay.
wants to wax poetic about Colin Kaepernick. So this show may be a long one.
so basically, he's trying to prove that the league is colluding together against having him on a NFL roster. Is that correct?
Essentially.
That's what he's getting at, yes.
Essentially the lawsuit.
NFL owners don't have to hire anybody on the team that they don't need to. Are they saying it's because of a racial thing, or the kneeling thing, or what exactly?
Well, I think the argument is that it's not football related.
It's not football
And I
related.
think clearly it is not football related because there are plenty of quarterbacks that don't have the resume or the talent of Colin Kaepernick that have NFL jobs right now as quarterbacks, as certainly backup quarterbacks, and now there are a few starting quarterbacks.
Okay, but can't you make the argument with all those free agent players that aren't on rosters anymore? That can, I don't know, it's harder to say about, it's easier to say about quarterbacks because we could watch them all and grade them, fairly well. But like with all the defensive players, with all the offensive linemen that don't have jobs, like Craig Erbich's
who
one.
particularly? Name one offensive lineman that you feel is...
Yeah, but I can't do that right now off the top of my head. But
Exactly.
That's the
but
problem
I bet
with
you
that.
can name
Yeah.
one quarterback that should be on an NFL roster.
Yeah, but essentially, there's plenty of talented people out there that are pretty
Mike,
good in their own
Mike.
type of industries, and employers don't have to hire them if they don't feel.
Look,
it's-
I understand it if you're the Cleveland Browns and you have no intention of making the playoffs this year. And so it doesn't make sense to bring in a Colin Kaepernick to come in for a year as a Band-Aid because you're trying to groom a new quarterback and it doesn't matter if you make the playoffs or not, and he's not worth the distraction, so to speak. And that's ultimately what this comes down to. It's this whole sliding scale of how good are you versus how much of a distraction you are. But you're the Oakland Raiders, and you come in with very high hopes. Your hopes are to win the division. Your hopes are to make the playoffs and arguably get to the Super Bowl. And your starting quarterback gets hurt, Derek Carr. Now, granted, it wasn't, we thought it was more serious than it actually turned out to be. He ends up only missing one game. But your backup quarterback is E.J. Manuel. I think we can all agree that you'd rather have Colin Kaepernick. The Tennessee Titans, another team.
With the same type of offense.
Firsthand as Dolphin fans. Matt Castle, Colin Kaepernick, a better option. Now, it won't happen now because now that this lawsuit is out, forget about it. Nobody's signing him. It's done. It's done. But I would have loved to see what would happen now that Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Because now you have a team that legitimately was a Super Bowl favorite coming into the week. And Aaron Rodgers looks to be out for the season. And they have, what's his name, Nick Hundley?
Brett Hundley.
Brett Hundley.
Brett Hundley from UCLA. Yeah. Brett Hundley from UCLA is not a Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is not an Aaron Rodgers, but Colin Kaepernick knows how to roll the pocket like the Packers like to do. The Packers know that they have themselves a nice mobile quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You bring in a person like Colin Kaepernick who has been to the Super Bowl. He's played in big games in his career, and for a team like the Packers that you say that have these aspirations of going to the Super Bowl, you have a veteran player that has been sitting there waiting for his opportunity to come in and shine, that has seen what they're going to see down the road. And that's something that, like you say, before this whole collusion thing, you would have loved to have seen, would the Packers have actually looked at him? Now, another reason why people aren't giving Colin Kaepernick an opportunity is the owners. The owners are saying, if I put him on my team, what kind of profits am I going to lose? Because the general of America don't agree with what he says. And the general of America is what puts the profit into the owner's pockets. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he was never signed or even much looked at by most teams. Seattle looked at him, but Seattle, it's Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is going to look at basically almost anybody.
But, I mean, I think with Kaepernick's skill set, there's only certain offenses that could, he does the re-option stuff. So I think there's only there's very, very few offenses in the NFL that still do the read option. Like Seattle, he had his chance at Seattle because they do a lot of read option stuff with Russell Wilson. The Carolina Panthers, they used to do that. I don't think they do that as much anymore. So, you could also say that it's a football decision that, although he is talented and he can throw the ball, but maybe football decision-wise, that kind of stuff doesn't fit what most NFL teams want to do, and maybe they just want to keep the backup quarterbacks that they have that they either drafted or they're trying to develop on their rosters because maybe they can make the argument that the backups that they have are more in tune with the type of system and offenses that they run.
It's certainly
and bringing Kaepernick into their team so late in the season, they could make the argument that maybe he might not be able to catch up and gain chemistry with his team. Do I think he belongs on an NFL roster? Yeah. But, the Ravens, during the offseason, they were begging their owner to put Kaepernick on the team when Flacco went down. But, I mean, I could say that owner kind of colluded to not have Kaepernick on there.
Well, we don't know.
Because that coaching staff, there was rumblings saying that coaching staff really wanted Kaepernick on the Ravens team, and the owner decided not to.
Yeah, I think, look, it's going to be almost impossible for Colin Kaepernick to prove that all of these owners got together and decided, don't sign Colin Kaepernick. I don't think that that's the way it works. I think teams generally are and owners especially, have their self-interests in mind more than anybody else. And I don't think that there's this collusion. I just think that a lot of these owners are very like-minded people. And they look at their pocketbook. They look at their team on the field. Colin Kaepernick is not Aaron Rodgers. And so Colin Kaepernick is not a guy that you can plug in on a team that is not a playoff team and say, oh, he definitely makes us a playoff team. And he's not a guy that many teams want to necessarily invest in long term. So that hurts his stance because he has, by his own actions, made himself a distraction. And that becomes a problem. And so to make up for that distraction, you see it all over the league. certain players can get away with being a distraction. What makes you able to get away with it is being an elite player, an elite talent. And when you're a quarterback and you're not elite, and let's say you're like the 26th or 27th best quarterback, these teams might look at it and say, well, it's just not worth it, and we don't want our backup quarterback to be a distraction. And if he's our starting quarterback and we're the Browns, he's not making us a playoff team, and he's not our long-term solution, so we don't want to deal with the distraction. And so it's going to be very difficult for him to prove that. But
yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a mess. But let's talk about another thing, another team that has been an absolute mess this season, and yet somehow finds themselves 3-2, and somehow finds themselves, if the season had ended today, a playoff team in the AFC. I'm talking about your Miami Dolphins.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Halfway through the show, we finally get to it.
We have finally gotten there.
Excellent transition, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Big things to talk about this week.
Professional broadcaster. So, the Miami Dolphins, 3-2, go into Atlanta, fall behind 17-0, look absolutely dreadful, look dead in the water. Vegas had us as like a 14-point underdog, I believe.
I think it was 13 or 14. Doesn't matter, double digits.
They looked to be well on their way to proving Vegas right and winning a bunch of people money who bet on the Falcons.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
And then in the second half, the Miami Dolphins outscore the Atlanta Falcons 20-0.
All too easy.
And come away with a 20-17 victory.
In the second half.
It is a victory. Steve was pumped up when he came in here. He was pumped up yesterday in the group chat. He texted, I said, I don't know. I have no idea how the Miami Dolphins won this game. And Steve said, defense, baby.
Defense. That's where it begins and ends with the Miami Dolphins. I've been saying it all year. Our defense is one of the top defenses in the league. We're the 11th ranked defense in yards per game. We only give up 16.8 points per game. That's going against the Chargers and Phillip Rivers.
Number 3 in the league.
That's now going against Matt Ryan and the Braves. Or the Braves, I'm sorry, the Falcons. And
it's got that postseason fever.
Yeah, it's the whole Atlanta factor, But the defense, it like I said, it really begins and ends with our defense. If our defense holds teams under a certain amount, 17, 20, if we hold them under 20 points, there's a chance we can win every single week. I said last week, if we hold Atlanta under 24 points, we can win this game. We held them to just 17, and we won this game because you still have Jay Ajayi back there. You still have a professional offense on the field.
Well, that's stretching it a bit.
Well, they get paid, so
you still have
professionals.
Yeah, but technically, yes, they do get paid.
They're a professional. There's a professional offense on the field out there. It's like the whole debate every year. People say, "Oh, Alabama will beat the Browns." Alabama would get spanked by the Browns.
I agree.
Because there's only maybe at the end of the entire tenure of Alabama, half of that team on the NFL. The entire team of the Browns in the NFL. So by that third, fourth quarter come around, them Alabama players, they're going to be tired. So that's what I mean by you still have a professional team on the field out there. You have proven veterans. You have Jarvis Landry out there. You still have Kenny Stills out there. You have Thomas out there. Jay Ajayi, Damian Williams, Jay Cutler, Mike Pouncey for half the game. I mean, you still have professionals and people that are good at their job. So as long as our defense can keep us in the game, there's still a chance we can win. And we proved it this week. Get the running game going. Get Jay Ajayi getting us positive yards on first and second down. Make third and manageable plays. You're going to be able to win the game. Last week, we somehow won. We had one drive over 19 yards last week. We only had one drive under 19 yards this week, and that was 17 yards. Every other drive was 21 yards or longer. And so, like I say, our offense, it can go. Now, granted, the Falcons defense isn't one of the best defenses in the league, and they're not built for an offense like the Dolphins. The Falcons want to spread the field. They have a lot of speed. We want to use the power offense. We want to run it 30 times with Jay, tire them out, and that's what we did. And in the fourth quarter and in the third quarter, we were able to persevere and pull this thing out. And like I said, having that defense back there, and really with Ray Maluga back, Lauren back, but really starting to get into game, speed. And then Lawrence Timmons, Kiko Alonso at the linebacker situation. It's always nice when you have Rashad Jones back at the safety. It gives Xavier Howard and everybody else just that, hey, we have Rashad back there. It gives you a little
like
more.
A fourth linebacker on the field.
Exactly. It gives you that little bit of a safety blanket. Like, okay, I know we have him. And then you have the defensive line that we have. I mean, come on, between Cameron Wake, Ndamukong Suh, Andre Branch, you go on and on. I'm drawing William Hayes, Charles Harris.
We have great corners. Cordrea Tankersley's,
so that's what I'm saying.
Up over
Our
Maxwell.
defense.
And Xavier Howard shut down Julio Jones yesterday.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Our defense is the whole reason why we won this game, and it'll be the reason why we win all of our games. We're not going to win a shootout game. If our defense gives up 30 points, sorry to tell you guys, we're probably most likely not going to win that game unless we might have, a pick six or a kick return or a punt return.
Once in a blue moon, our offense comes alive for that.
Yeah, our offense isn't going to be a team that's going to score 30 points or 24 points a game. Our offense is going to be a team that scores 20 to 24 points if we're happy. So that's why I say our defense, hopefully they need to stay healthy.
Your feelings for them are strong.
And as long as our defense stays healthy, and then in a couple of weeks you get TJ McDonald back after his suspension, he's going to be ready to go.
The Force is strong with him.
We're looking like you have yourself a playoff caliber defensive team. Now, you want a little bit of help with the offense. You would like to see maybe Jay Cutler get more in tune with his receivers. I believe there was 5 drops yesterday, 3 by Jarvis Landry, which is unheard of. Jarvis Landry has amazing hands, and a couple of those drops were on third downs or a fourth down, I believe one of them was. So, those are key plays that could have even kept the game closer, because I believe 2 of Jarvis Landry's drops were on a third and a fourth down in the first half.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, I hate Jay Cutler. But a lot.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh gosh, I wish I could. Do we have another 2 hours of the show to do that with?
No,
anyway,
unfortunately, no.
Okay, so
we already used too much time.
So basically, I don't know. Some of
Kaepernick.
those catches were very short passes, and they were tough contested catches to make in short windows. And I could see the wide receiver. I could understand if the wide receivers heard footsteps nearby and kind of scared them.
No,
but you have to once the ball hits your hands, you got to catch it.
That's the thing. You play in the NFL. You don't play in the college. If you get 2 hands on the ball, you catch that ball. I don't care about hearing footsteps over the middle or the one with J.J. Oh, it's in his face mask. You got 2 hands on the ball. You catch that ball. You're in the NFL.
Yeah, my thing on Jarvis Landry is that he has to be graded differently, because this is a guy that's got a contract dispute. This is a guy that wants to be paid like a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league. He wants to make $12 million a year with a huge signing bonus. If he wants to get paid like an elite receiver, he's not a guy that's going to get you these 40, 50-yard gains. He's not a guy that's going to get you 14, 15 touchdowns, especially not in this offense. He's a possession receiver. And if he's going to be an elite possession receiver or an elite receiver as a possession receiver, he can't be dropping the ball. And I don't want to hear that, oh, that's a tough catch. You're damn right it's a tough catch. And that's the kind of catch that you want to be paid to make.
Absolutely.
And so far this year, Jarvis Landry has been Jarvis Landry, which is he's right on pace to be around 1,000 yards and be around 4 to 6 touchdown passes and average around 7 or 8 yards a catch. And that's who Jarvis Landry is. I don't even need to look at the stats.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats right now. You hit it right on the head. He's averaging 7.2 yards per catch. His long of the season's 18. Like you say, he's not going to get you that 40-yard catch. He's got 2 touchdowns on the year, 38 catches on 57 targets.
That's still a lot of catches.
That's a lot of catches.
That's who he is.
That's what he's going to do.
Jarvis
Landry and Odell Beckham Jr.
That's always been his thing. He's known for how many catches he makes per season.
Right. He is a great possession receiver. What he does extremely well, which is where he can make his money, is yards after the catch. And he had that was fully on display in this game. It was big in the last game, and it was instrumental in the touchdown drive against the Titans. And it was big in this game in the touchdown drives in the second half. That's what Landry does. He gives you tough yardage after the catch. But do you want to pay $12 million for that guy? Maybe. Because I think he's instrumental. However, if you're going to pay $12 million for this guy, when it's third down and he's your possession receiver and he goes to the marker and he's not got this great separation from his defensive back and the quarterback throws the ball in a spot where he can catch it and it hits his hands, he's got to make the catch. Otherwise, you can find somebody that can get open in the middle of the field and you can pay him a fraction of what Jarvis Landry wants to be paid.
Yes, but I mean, are we looking at his drops as just a regular thing or just an anomaly of what just happened yesterday?
I'm looking at it through every game he has to be looked at through a microscope.
Yes.
Because he wants to be paid as an elite receiver, and this is going to carry on throughout the entire year, is that
but he's not known for his drops. This is just something that just
right. But it's not like these were his only drops of the year. He's had a couple of drops in the past several games too, and you can't put all of it on Jay Cutler. At the end of the day, if you're paying your receiver $12 million, sometimes that $12 million receiver needs to make his quarterback look good.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially this one.
No, and I just looked at it right now.
Yeah.
I just looked at it right now, and in 2016, he had 37 total drops. He has 19 drops this year. Now, you could go ahead and say, oh, he had Tannehill last year, he's got Cutler this year. Yeah, I'm sure that factors into it. But again, like you say, this is a contract year. You're looking at a person that was drafted in the second round, 63rd overall by Miami. He is looking for that, not top 15, he's looking for top 10 wide receiver pay.
Right.
And in going into this year, him and Odell Beckham Jr. had the exact same amount of receptions. Odell Beckham Jr. has almost twice the amount of yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he has triple the amount of touchdowns that Landry has.
Landry, as of right now, with 2 touchdowns on the year this year, has 15 total touchdowns in his career.
And think of how many different wide receiver ones and wide receiver twos come out every single draft.
That's the thing, though. You're going back to Landry. He's not going to be the guy that's going to get you 10-plus touchdowns a year. You know what he's going to be? He's going to be that guy that's going to get you a first down. He's going to be the guy that's going to keep you on the field, and you see it week in, week out. The toughness he brings to the game, his talking smack, getting up in the opponent's face. Your teammates feed off of that. Sometimes he can go over the line, and, you settle him down. But you see a player get up. Like yesterday, I believe it was a 3rd and 8. He caught the ball. It was a 3rd and 8 yesterday. He caught the ball, and he caught the ball, I think, 4 yards or some odd behind the first down line. He carried 4 defenders to get into that first down. That's what he's going to get. And those are the things we're going to look at. But again, he dropped a 3rd down and 3 earlier where the ball was low. Oh, it was at his shins. He got 2 hands on it. It's Jarvis Landry. You want to make top 10 wide receiver money, you catch that ball.
Well, he's not going to come. I don't think he's going to get a bunch of catches this year, but I don't think he's going to come. I don't know how his production is going to be. I don't know if he's going to equal, get the same amount of yards that he did before or anything like that. Not the way it's going so far this season.
Yeah, well, that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on throughout the course of the year. It's going to be something that kind of hangs over.
But you give him a better quarterback, and someone
Yeah,
who can
I
actually
mean,
throw
maybe.
downfield more. I
But-
think Landry can do a little bit more than what he's been asked to do if he had better quarterbacks.
I don't know. I think that Jarvis Landry is kind of who he is,
Yeah.
and I think the Dolphins use him, I think, in the correct way. I think you could use him, not everything has to be a bubble screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something to take into consideration. But I don't think Jarvis Landry he's a guy that's quicker than he is fast, and he's a guy that excels once he gets the ball in his hands. So he's not a guy that you necessarily want to be streaking down the field.
I know that.
On the
I know he
9
doesn't
route.
have the
He's
speed
not
for
Mike
that.
Wallace. He's not Kenny Stills. He's certainly not Devontae Parker, a guy who can be covered, who you can just throw the ball up to. But look, that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on over the course of the year. It's something that the Dolphins internally will certainly be keeping an eye on over the course of the entire year, because that's a huge decision that is looming next offseason.
I think Jarvis will get back on track at some point this season.
Well, I think.
I don't think that drop thing is going to continue.
Look, the Dolphins don't win that game yesterday if not for Jarvis Landry.
Absolutely not.
I mean, he was easily the best receiver.
They
on
don't
the
win
field.
last week without him either.
Yeah. So I mean, nobody's sitting here and saying that Jarvis Landry is a bad receiver and that he's underperforming. He's had a few critical drops, and these are something that you have to take into consideration when looking at Jarvis Landry as a whole and deciding whether or not he should be paid like an elite receiver. But we've got to kind of put that to the side a little bit. This game was more than just Jarvis Landry. We talked about the dominance of the defense. We talked a little bit about the offense in Jarvis Landry. We didn't talk a whole lot about Jay Ajayi and his dominance. 130 yards on 26 carries, 96 yards after contact. I mean, the guy, every week, it's like...
That's a train, dude.
Every week, it's like 70% of his yards come after contact, which is just unheard of. The guy is an absolute animal.
We didn't talk about the O-line and actually not giving up a sack the entire game.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
The deflector shield.
We could talk about Jake, if this was a home game, you thought the We Want More chants were bad last week. I mean, my Twitter feed, and I'm guilty of it. At the end of the first half, I was done. I was done with Jay Cutler. I'm saying, look.
He is as clumsy as he is stupid.
If we're paying $10 million to get Jay Cutler,
With $3 million in incentives for next year.
he ain't hitting those incentives.
Oh, no, he's not.
But-
I don't even know what they are, but he's not going to hit them.
Unless it's, for throwing 300 passes off your back foot. He's not hitting those incentives. But I was ready to see Matt Moore. The offense is inept, and it's not all on Cutler, but he's being paid to basically be Matt Moore. And Matt Moore is good at being Matt Moore.
And Matt
Jay
Moore,
Cutler
you
is
could
not good at being
you
Matt
could
Moore.
argue
He's
that
not known
Matt
for
Moore's
being
even
this
more
game
productive than
manager.
Cutler was last season. And when he had to take over for 3 games, I mean, I don't see anything that Cutler's doing now on the field that Matt Moore cannot do.
Exactly.
And
I'd have to agree with that.
I've seen Matt Moore, going into last year, he whooped the Jets, something that Cutler didn't do this year. Matt Moore was...
Different scenario, though, different effort on the field by teams, knowing the scenario that the Dolphins needed last year going into that Jets game, knowing they needed to win to go into the playoffs. This early in the season with as much turmoil following the Dolphins, I'm not saying you can understand why we lost to the Jets. And maybe the Jets aren't
Moore
as
was the starting
bad.
quarterback.
No, I'm just saying maybe the Jets also aren't as bad as people expect them to be.
They just played toe-to-toe with the Patriots.
With the
They'd
Patriots.
easily be 4-2
So, I
right
mean,
now.
the Jets were a bad team last year. They were not a good team last year.
I'm sorry.
So they could be a better team this year. But I'm just saying, could Matt Moore do exactly what Jay Cutler's doing right now? Absolutely.
Probably more, I think.
But we also know, as Matt Moore throughout his entire career, his career backup, at the absolute best you're going to get out of him is 9-7.
Well, what
I think the absolute best we're getting
can't
out
you
of
make
Jay
the same
Cutler is
argument with Jay
9-7.
Cutler giving you 9-7 or probably
I'd be
less?
thrilled with 9-7.
Jay Cutler's playing like the backup now. Like
Anyway.
Matt Moore last year with the he has better team chemistry with the team. He showed that last year when he was moving the ball up and down the field. It took Jay Cutler what week are we in? 5? Week 6?
This was week 6.
This was week 6, game 5, and Jay Cutler finally threw 2 touchdowns. I saw Matt Moore throw 4 touchdowns? Was it 4 touchdowns against the Jets last year, and then came back against the Bills and threw another 2 touchdowns?
Well,
He's been on the team longer.
That said,
what is so special about Jay Cutler
it took
as opposed
6
to Matt
weeks. It took 6 weeks, but he did throw 2 touchdowns. And the Dolphins had the ball 4 times in the second half, not including the 39 seconds that they had it where they go into victory formation and take a knee. But they had 4 possessions in the second half of this game, and they scored on all 4. The one that I would like to focus on, because we're low on time.
It's a good thing you saw that.
If we could do a 3-hour show, and I'm sure the way we're conversing right now, we could easily do a 3-hour show. But the one that I want to get into is essentially the game-winning drive, which is Dolphins get the ball, they drive down, they get into field goal range. There's, I think, about 3 minutes left in the game, and they've been moving the ball with the short passing game. Sure, Jay Ajayi's been running as well. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of urgency. It was a tie game at that point. And you got plenty of time, so it's not like we needed to give up on the ground game. However, it seemed very obvious that once they got into field goal range, they got super tight, and they played for the field goal. And we saw this in week 2, which was the opener against the Chargers, which was in a tie game, well, in a game where at that game the Dolphins trailed by a point. But late in the game, with still time left on the clock, with an opposing quarterback that is more than capable, we're leaving a lot of time on the clock and just saying we're okay with taking the field goal. And I was not thrilled with the decision to get super conservative. Now, granted, I mean, look, you don't know. They could get aggressive there and they could turn the ball over. That's something that could happen. Like we said, Jay Cutler's not been playing great. But I personally would like to see a little bit more aggression. You want to be smart with the ball. You don't want to take an unnecessary risk, but a calculated risk to throw the ball and actually try to get into the end zone. Because if you get into the end zone, you've made it substantially more difficult for the opposing team to tie up the game, and they're not winning the game unless they score a touchdown and go for 2, or if they score a touchdown, tie it up, and take it into overtime. We end up making the field goal. Atlanta gets the ball. Very similar to the opener against the Chargers. Matt Moore, just like Phillip Rivers did, drives the Falcons right down the field. And it looks like the Falcons are going to at the very least tie the game up. And if not for a great play by both Cordray Tankersley and Rashad Jones, Atlanta definitely have a field goal attempt, and they have a much better kicker than Younghoe Koo. Matt Bryant is almost certainly making that field goal if it comes down to it. Look, you can't argue with the results. The Dolphins have now won 11 in a row when the game has been decided by 7 points or less. But at some point, if you keep playing these close games and you keep playing super conservative and counting on your defense to turn the other team over, or you're counting on the other team missing a field goal, at some point it's going to bite you. The good news for the Dolphins is that this looks like a legit top 10 defense, and every time they've asked the defense to come up big, the defense has come up big this season, and they're looking better and better every week.
I don't have a problem with them going conservative because we've seen it in, I think, a couple games this year. I can't remember the exact moments, but I know we've seen some decisions where they try to go aggressive with a struggling offense, with a struggling quarterback, with a struggling running game, and a struggling offensive line, and it doesn't work out. And so I think You got to play to your strengths right now until the offense starts clicking better. And I think you have to go conservative just to kind of keep the game in your hands and just keep it safe. And yeah, I mean, in years past when the Dolphins defense wasn't good, yeah, I'd have a huge problem with this, because then you'd give a great quarterback against a weak defense, that chance to go down the field. But this defense is legit. And although it's just something you have to deal with right now.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to let you get in on this point, and then we're just going to real quick do our quick takeaways from this game, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll be real quick with it. I love the last drive. We got the ball back with 6:57 left. We gave it to them with 2:30 after timeout by Atlanta. We got the ball at our own, 34. We drove it all the way down to Atlanta's 20. Atlanta still does have a good defense, not a great defense, as I mentioned, but they still have playmakers out there. So for us to still be able to take that much time off the clock and drive it that far to get that field goal, and after shutting out Atlanta's defense for the entire second half so far, you have the confidence on the defense to say, go out there and don't let them get a touchdown. If they do get a field goal, we live to play another down. So I thought the last drive was very convincing to me. It showed a lot to me. It showed that we have what it almost fully takes to secure a victory. Like you said, I still would have loved to have gotten the touchdown, but we showed that we are able to drive the ball in crucial times against good teams and then come up at the end on the defensive side and still be able to make a stop. Like I said, they had 2:30 left, so they still had a two-minute warning, and I think one or two timeouts.
They had all 3 timeouts.
Well, they took a timeout. No, they took a timeout when we had the ball. They did take a timeout. Atlanta took a timeout with 2:40 left in the game.
Okay.
So they didn't have all 3 when they got the ball back. But technically, with 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning, you basically you had 3 timeouts. But I thought it was a great drive. I really did. And like you said, the strength of our team is our defense. And if we can't lean on our defense to help us secure a victory, then we have nothing to lean on.
I guess I'm just such a jaded Dolphin fan, and I've seen that game so many times, and and I know that it's worked for us in the past season and a half. Really, the past season, because time last year we were 1-4. So basically, in the last 16 games or so, it's worked.
So far, under Adam Gase, it's worked.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess I still carry 30 years of watching the Dolphins lose that game because they've gone conservative at the end instead of going for the kill shot, so to speak. But look, it's worked. The Dolphins are 3-2, and if the season ended today, which it does not, the Dolphins would be a playoff team. But we are running out of time, so real quick, we're just going to plug again DolphinsReport.com. We all write articles for that website, a great site for Dolphins analysis and the perspective of what the Dolphins are doing from Dolphin fans. Mike, tell the people where they can find you on social media.
On Twitter, my handle is @FTBallMikeHern, and you could also find me on Facebook at Mike Hernandez.
Oh, gonna get some followers on the old personal Facebook.
I got more on Facebook so far. I mean, a lot of them hate me, but that's okay.
Ladies, slide up in them DMs. You can find me at Aaron the Brain on Twitter. You can also follow another podcast that I do with my brother Josh, Same Old Dolphin Show. I'm going to record a show with him in about an hour or so. Steve.
You can find me at Twitter at Woto954. That's WOTO954, where I only post Dolphin stuff.
Awesome. So that's where you can find us. Of course, again, you can find us all writing on DolphinsReport.com, part of Scout Media. Be sure to follow at Dolphins on Scout. That's at Dolphins on Scout on Twitter as well. And we will talk to you again next week. We didn't really have enough time to get into much of a breakdown of the game next week. A grudge match against those disgusting New York Jets. Hopefully next week we'll be talking about a Dolphins victory over those Jets.
We will. We will be.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. Let's go, Dolphins!
Yeah, baby.